Friends at ABC. Thank you. Gino Benitez. Gia Benitez. Jade, it's interesting the whistleblowing stuff. I mean, Boeing, the last time, and it wasn't really whistleblowing, is remember the oil spill was a BP, British Petroleum, didn't do a terribly good job of handling that. But this story is getting ahead of Boeing. Also, also NPR having a little bit of an issue too with a whistleblower. But hey, we got a packed show for you coming up. It is Wednesday. We made it this far in the week. Let me tell you what's coming up before we get going. Paul Steinhaus is out there live before we bring in Steiny. President Biden on his way to Pennsylvania, a very important state in the sweepstakes for who the next president is. Obviously, we'll come back to that. We're going to hear from John Decker, our own White House correspondent, in just a few moments, talking about the Biden trip to Pennsylvania. Also going to have some fun, introduce you to a great talent in New England, former UNH skier, but a longtime innkeeper, became not only a mom, but a performer, a writer, an author, and she's got some new shows coming up. Cindy Pierce in the 10 o'clock hour, having fun with that. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Thousands of you are listening each morning across the platforms and mobile devices, you name it, and we appreciate it beyond our metro region. But, of course, we're up into Portland, WTSN, Seacoast of New Hampshire, now up into Maine, 98.1 FM, 1270 AM. We get you blanketed in the Lakes region, AM and FM, WEMJ, WASR, and, of course, WTPL 107.7 FM. But just about everywhere else, anywhere, you name it, the Pulse of NH. Download the app. Paul Steinhauser reports nationally for Fox News and for us as well. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of NH. Steiny out there. Good morning. Paul, and the jurors that were interviewed, somehow the network got some of the responses to see if they could be impartial. I like the one gentleman, I think he became, American, I assume, from another country, which is not a problem at all. I'm pointing out he was a juror, and he made an interesting comment. He said, "Oh, Donald Trump, fascinating fellow. He walks into a room, lights it up, and you either like him or you don't." I thought that juror summed it summed it up pretty good. Thank you, Steiny. Paul Steinhauser live reports nationally for Fox and Frost. A couple other stories. We got John Decker on deck, our own White House correspondent. But I just have to point out there's a couple of stories. There is this battle over the House speakership and the Republicans. We're going to have more on that with our NBC News correspondents. Bruins came up short last night. They lost their last two last night to Ottawa, but they're going to open up J-Dog against the Maple Leafs. And you asked me, it feels like a 7-game series to me. I'm just telling you, it could be a tough one against Toronto. We'll fill you in on that. A couple of the other news stories. U.S. is going to impose new sanctions against Iran. We know those haven't worked terribly well, but things are still tense and hopefully not escalating between Tehran and Israel, but keep an eye on that. Speaking of the Tehran-Israeli situation, Bill Maher, I'm on a huge fan, but lately I'm becoming a little bit more of a fan. He speaks his mind. He says stuff because he used to be perceived as anything but on the conservative aisle, but he says stuff that needs to be said. And on his podcast, he was talking about this by the way, not Tehran in Iran, not Tehran, where they burn American flags and they hate the West and they want to obliterate Israel and us, by the way. And morons in the middle who don't understand that, well, there's some form of human rabies going around. But Dearborn, Michigan, the chants, death to Americans. Dearborn, Michigan, from protesters. Death to America? Hey, you want to call for the end of the war in Gaza, that's fine. loss of life. Palestinians caught in the middle of this war between Hamas and Tehran now. It's obviously showing its hand in Israel, but death to America? A lot of cancers in bodies start very small within little speck on an x-ray on an organ. Death to America? Why? You know what I wonder with some of these people? Why don't they, if they hate this country, why don't they seriously go and try and become an undocumented citizen in Tehran? What? Seriously, you hate America that much. You glorify terrorists that want to kill you and blow you up. Why don't you just move there or adopt a few? There's a novel concept. And then also keep an eye on the presidential race because Joe Biden going to Pennsylvania. I love this too. Don't you love it? Class warfare now. The Biden the president, the White House, or the reelection team. Class warfare. Donald Trump. You notice how Trump goes into Harlem or that Chick-fil-A the other day, appealing to all kinds of people. And people like, Trump when he wants to be natural and charming. And Joe Biden's out there talking about class warfare. He'll never understand the middle class. So let me ask you a question. I heard this on the way in. If you're in the middle class, how do you like those interest rates now? 7.5% for a 30-year fixed mortgage if you want to buy a new home. So 7.5%. Inflation's still through the roof. Gas prices even have gone up recently. And Joe Biden can feel your pain. He can feel your pain better than anyone else. You think so? Wow. All right. Hey, we got a packed show for you. As I said, coming up, our own White House correspondent, John Decker, and he'll talk about the trip to Pennsylvania by Joe Biden. Go into that. Hey, I can feel your pain. I'm one of you. Going to go to Scranton. You're going to go to, where I'm from. Although the president, well, we'll see what he says in his speech today. He's from a lot of places and went to a lot of colleges. Hey, real quickly, mark your calendar, please. We go 12 hours on May 15th for my 10th annual Make 12 Hours Count for Veterans Count, part of Easter Seals. Make 12 hours count for Veterans Count, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., May 15th, less than a month to go. And we are going to raise awareness and support for our veterans. A novel concept, less than 1% serve 330 million very entitled Americans. And we can't even take better care of our veterans who serve us all. And you know me, a little outspoken on this or passionate. If we can't take care of our veterans, I don't think we have any business taking care of anyone else. If we can't take better care of our veterans. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, coming up next. Welcome back. Before we bring in John Decker, our own White House correspondent, talking about Joe Biden now focusing on Pennsylvania and his roots, where he's from, and the economy, blue collar, middle income. How Donald Trump can't feel that pain, even though all these trials are trying to take away his money. I saw the salary. I saw the salary for this superstar who I think is going to transform a lot of women's sports, but also the WNBA. But I saw Caitlin Clark's salary with the Indiana team she signed. What is it called? The Indiana Fever or whatever it's called, J Dog. 4 years, and I'm happy for her. 4 years, 338,000. When I first read this, J Dog, I go, well, you know what? I know they don't get the draw or whatever, but that's 4 years, $76,500 a year for her. And you know what? I guess it's true in the PGA and LPGA, different salary levels. But I got to tell you, J Dog, because of her, the viewership for women's NCAA, the Final Four stuff was higher than the men's. And I got to tell you, this table has to be adjusted. I mean, there's players that might make what's the New Jersey Nets? Is that still a team? Okay, well, give me a team I don't even know. The Grizzly, I don't know. Memphis Grizzlies, there may be an eighth player on that team. The lowest paid player is probably what, 3 or 4 million a year in the NBA. Well, again, that's like Patrick Mahomes in NFL. You can't use that. Use an average journeyman, like a really. And Caitlin, I mean, look at how good she is. 4 years, 76,000 a year. That's like minor league baseball. I know, but I'm just surprised they didn't sign her to more to raise that bar. Well, fine owners that it's look at her numbers during the NCAA. Well, she may change it. She may she right. She may change it. She may be the change agent because I think she's a superstar. I think she's going to just bring more young people into the game, more people from all walks of life. Yeah, yeah. All right, John Decker, on White House correspondent. Sorry, John, we got a little digress or a little transition there, but Pennsylvania, this presidential race very much underway. How ironic is it, John? I'm hearing about jury selection. Donald Trump leaves a courtroom for his hush money case, goes into a section of Harlem to politic. Joe Biden's out there. Can you believe you couldn't have written this stuff? You could not have written this stuff for like the next House of Cards series. Right. And John, real quickly, I think you'd agree with me. I think abortion rights, certainly Democrats, the president are going to try and make that a key issue. But when you look at immigration, you look at the southern border, you look at inflation, you look at interest rates today, 7.5% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. President Biden has tried to talk about inflation's coming down, Bidenomics is working. Obviously, he recognizes middle income folks are feeling the pinch, goes to Pennsylvania, but this is going to be a tough one because if the economy becomes more of an issue for the incumbent, I think it adds to the list here to make it more of a competitive race with Donald Trump. But that's just my take. All right, John Decker, thank you so much. Our own White House correspondent. Thank you, John. I just want to talk about the economy for a moment and what I'm seeing. Here are the flashpoints. This will decide I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'm not, and I don't know how much is going to change because so much can change in the Middle East in terms of escalation of tensions or war, if you will, between Israel, not just Hamas and Hezbollah and the proxies, but Tehran, Ukraine situation, global geopolitical stuff. But here are the issues I see going into this next November in terms of who the next president is. And this matters because you're talking 4 years. So I think, one of the jurors who's been picked in this hush money Stormy Daniels trial in New Yorker case said it best. A couple of jurors interviewed because they were excluded, so many jurors because they're trying to find someone who can be impartial in judging Donald Trump. How's that going to work for you? Who on earth, for whatever you think of him, doesn't know Donald Trump? Think about that. And so they got the jurors, and you have to be somewhat reasonable. You're not going to get anyone to be on the jury. But a couple of people were saying, they don't. One of the women said, I think it's 3 women, 4 men, I'm not sure, said, I don't really have an opinion either way. Another one said, well, one thing about Trump is he says what's on his mind. And then, of course, this other juror, Paul said, was from Ireland originally, said, he comes into the room and he lights it up and you either like him or you don't. All these things sort of sum up Trump. But here's the thing I'm going to say on the election. The reason why I think if the election were held today, believe it or not, Trump would win. And I wasn't going to say that a number of months ago during the primary. But if the election were held today, the general election, and I'll tell you who's going to decide that. It's not Democrats, and it's not Republicans, and it's not the Trump base. It's independent voters. It is independent voters in the general election. And what they're looking at is how they feel. I'm being totally candid here. This will decide the election. And if you look at most families and couples out there that are struggling to pay bills, groceries, everything's expensive, insurance, those surprise bills, healthcare, everything's expensive. Interest rates are 7.5% now for a 30-year home. If they look at that and energy prices going up, they don't feel very good in the pocketbook and wallet. That's a problem for the incumbent president. Now, you can talk about abortion rights all day long, and you can spend, by the way, I have a great author tomorrow on the show talking about dark money, these groups that are behind these, like when someone runs in New Hampshire for Congress and there's $50 million spent on a Senate race, and every other ad is about abortion rights and how the Republicans want to ban abortion, ban abortion, ban abortion. My Republican opponent wants to ban abortion, ban abortion, ban abortion. So anyway, we're going to have an interesting author tomorrow at 10 o'clock. But abortion rights will be an issue for a good number of voters, including independents. I'm not denying that at all. So here you go, though. Let me tell you what's going to rock the seesaw in Trump's favor, though. And Trump was smart recently when he came out and said, look, if I get elected again, I'm not signing a national abortion ban. I don't advise politicians anymore or thoughts. I don't do it. I'll give my opinion if asked. When I say anymore, I mean, it's not how I made a living, but I'm saying I've observed a lot and people running for president, what they do right, what they do wrong, how comfortable they are in their own skin, what their message is. But if I was talking to the Trump camp, I'd say when it comes to abortion, when this thing heats up, whether or not they debate, but he's out there and he's being asked by, media or he's talking, Donald Trump should just say, hey, let me just tell you it's a state issue, but if I'm elected president, I am not signing a federal abortion ban. Stop talking, leave it there. Just stop talking. You don't get ahead if you talk anymore. Just leave it right there. I'm not signing a federal ban. That's driving Democrats nuts that he said that, by the way. But let's go beyond what's going to decide this election. Independent voters, pocketbook, wallet, everything's expensive. And people are not feeling better off today than they were 4 years ago. People are not feeling better financially off today than they do. They don't feel better off today than they did 4 years ago. That's a problem. That's a problem for an incumbent president who's been running around talking about inflation reduction and Bidenomics, and you can't beat the reality when someone's trying to pay bills and there's not enough money in the checking or the credit cards are maxed out, 23% interest rate. Not good. Number two is what's going on in major cities with crime and sanctuary cities. Most people don't like it. Most people with common sense or half of a commonsensical brain don't like it. The border, immigration, people think it's out of control. Think it is. Why else is state sending the National Guard to Texas to protect the state? Two situations going on in the world. This It's no longer just conflict between Israel and Hamas. This is there's almost a war going on between Tehran and Israel. War in Ukraine. Very uncertain world out there. You add all these things up, and people may not like Trump. They may not even admit they're going to vote for him, but more independent voters are going to vote for Trump than Joe Biden at this point. And you know who knows that? The Biden team. I'm watching their messaging. They come out strong to support Israel when they try and back off the pedal before this missile attack from Tehran, from Iran into Israel this past weekend, 350 missiles. Now they don't know where to go on the Israeli situation. They're staunch supporters defending, and now they're worried about their base. Worried about their base, and no offense, the foolish fools out there that are chanting "Death to America." So they're worried about their foreign policy. They're now going to start this message that Joe Biden can feel your pain more than Donald Trump. Most people are not going to believe that. Most people are not going to believe that Joe Biden is doing a better job with the economy than Trump will. Most people have seen. And here's a difference that the Biden team has. Both individuals now have a presidential record. Now, Trump's was tripped up or interrupted by COVID, but they both have a record. And when you see social media and these little posts like what energy cost when Trump was president, no wars in the world when Trump was president, where interest rates were when Trump was president, where inflation was when he was president. People look at this and they remember. So Trump had a record interrupted by a virus, which in my opinion was one of the worst handled things we've ever seen in our lifetimes, but hopefully we all learn from that. And Biden has a record. And right now, Biden's is the most current record. He is the incumbent. A lot of people don't know that. He is the incumbent president, not Trump. So the records are going to matter. We've heard nothing from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a while. Nothing. But if he gets on enough ballots, this is going to be interesting. But that's how I think the seesaw. Those are the issues. Now, the issues may change. The world situation may get better by next fall. It may get worse. The economy may get a little better. It may get worse. Immigration on the border aren't going to get any better because it is a crisis. Some commentary. 603-228-2080. We come back. Bob Jackman taking a break, talking about your home, LaValle Middleton and the team, LaValle Middleton Building Supply. Bob Jackman on deck. We're also getting an update from our friends at the Manchester VA. Back in a flash. All right, welcome back. And as we bring in Bob Jackman, of course, it's a good segue because they have positions open at La Valley, and they just are a great employer and team in our listening region. But Bob, of course, heads up the education and development for the whole company. Great business, great company. But I saw the other day from the state sent me the latest unemployment numbers. It's unbelievable, Bob, how low our unemployment is. Per capita, one of the lowest in the country. It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable. And there's so many jobs. I was talking to the head of Easter Seals yesterday, Maureen Beauregard, on a CEO segment. I think she said 300 positions. They could hire 300 people tomorrow to service the 20 plus thousand people they help each year. State of New Hampshire, hundreds of openings, companies. It's rather remarkable. If you want to work, if you want a job, there's probably never been a better time. But we can switch gears and you can talk about employment opportunities. But I want to talk about the methods of construction in terms of the next step and why modular is a logical next step. Because when you talk about building, most homes and additions are still done this way, and you can definitely help. So, Bob, I want you to run with that. But if you want to come back to the employment, I always love to share the message. Wow. And where was this, Bob? Where was the open house? At your modular home building development, your growing area. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Hmm. Mm, mm. Right. 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 Interesting. Well, and the other thing real quick is, we're having a really nice stretch of weather right now. And of course, we've come off the last, Monday and Tuesday are beautiful here locally. But sometimes you and I know, Bob, you know, um, April, May could get wet again, rainy. And some of these building projects that are exposed, like on a home building site, if they're working on the second floor and they can try tarp, but you and I know that an open building project gets exposed to the elements, and you can get water, you can get issues with the plywood, the wood, the framing, the materials. So that controlled portion section of building in a modular facility is airtight, correct? Hmm. Mm. Interesting. Well, I love I love the I love that story of just that part of your company. But then again, you have your everyday mission, and we're at a time of year, Bob. I think you'd agree that tons of spring projects coming off the winter. I don't think we had that harsh of a winter. We had a lot of wind. We had a lot of wet, and the wind in particular. And whether you're looking at your roof, your windows, a lot of this is a busy time of year, right? Hmm. Right. Well, I want to help you spread that word. So let me just understand this. So if you're working on a project on your home, and you might even have, you know, an installer, contractor, someone you're working with, but you can go to any of the Valley locations, correct? And talk to the folks there in the building area, because your facility may be out in Claremont, your modular home, but if they're looking for fast building for a section of their home, their contractor or the owner can go talk to one of your folks at one of your locations to get some consultation or consultative help. Newport, yep, right. But again, the homeowner could go to one of your locations, because Newport, Claremont, kind of in the same part of the state, to get a connection there, or should they go online first? Yep, yep. All right, Bob. Great stuff, Bob Jackman. We'll get you again real soon, and thank you for the employment update. Thank you, Bob. Just a quick follow up there on building. I mentioned the wind and all the recent windstorms we've had in our region, right up through a few weeks ago. 50 mile per hour wind gust. One of the things, and by the way, J Dog, if someone calls in during the break, just please get the name and number. But I'm going to throw this out there because I know there's some great fence companies, but I've been talking to more people I know that are looking for a good fence company this time of year. And I know we've worked in the pulse of a nature, or at least Vinny Media, with American Fence Company. There are many, many good companies, but I'm hearing from homeowners that not only trees, I got to tell you, I see more tree companies out cutting limbs, trimming trees that have been damaged, where the next windstorm, that pine may come over on top of your house. I saw just a few weeks ago, the most recent storm, where there are more tree companies out there. They're very busy. These are professionals. They are really good at what they do. So tree surgeons are out there. But fence companies, if you're a fence company, we want to hear from you, because I'd love to work with you on the show and maybe as an advertiser and promote a little bit. But more homeowners I've talked to have basically lost their fences, because it doesn't matter what kind of fence, plastic or wood. If it's over 4 or 5 feet tall, and that's like a sail with no openings, the wind just takes that and works right against the side, and boom. And of course, wooden fences, the post will break if they're not in concrete. So if you're a fence company, and you want to work with the show, I'm putting a shout out for a new fence company as a sponsor and an advertiser, and I'll promote because I think fence companies are and tree companies, but fence company. If you're a fence company, call J Dog during the break. We'll give you a chat and connect you with Aaron or one of our folks here. 603-228-2080, 228-2080, 603-228-2080. We come back, we'll get an update from our friends at the Manchester VA. But also, I just had a quick anecdote. I was talking to some friends this morning, and if you've been in a relationship with someone for a while, like I have, as I call it in this day and age of inclusiveness or sensitivities and feelings, my smarter, prettier, better half. Even though I guess I married my wife, I'll say my smarter, prettier, better half. That's a kind of a way I don't want to. I don't want to rock any boats. Smarter, pretty, better half has been away for a while. When I was talking to a few friends before the show, and for you folks out there, isn't it amazing when that person who's smarter and better than you and everything, the, when you're home alone, isn't it amazing after all these years? Like, I don't know about you, and I guess I'll say this: I'm not doing a community show here, a comedy show, but like guys and gals, if that's okay. You, if you're on my category a little bit, sometimes you don't load the dishwasher just right. Even if you do the dishes and you clean, you're not doing it just right. Or if you're doing your laundry, you mix things. You now, even though these things have been washed 1,000 times, my smarter, pretty, better half doesn't like anything mixed, like, so you separate. I go, no, that's so much work. Just throw it all in a bucket, throw it in there. The most recent was I was talking to a buddy this morning, and he was saying, what is it about towels? What is it about towels? He goes, I tend to take a good shower, wash up, whether it's at the gym or home. I use one towel, and my smarter, prettier, better half uses 8 towels every time. They're hanging all over the place. So I just laugh the inherent differences that make us loving couples, as they say. But it's towels. But it's amazing. And by the way, J Dog, I'm not getting that brave. I'm only talking about her because she's on a plane right now. She can't hear. She's they say turn off those cellular devices so I can be real brave and say I survived 2 weeks doing the dishes my way, loading the dishwasher my way. I'm not Frank Sinatra. Doing the laundry my way. The dog and I, my canine and I, not dog, not J Dog, my canine and I survived. Amazing. Now, the refrigerator may be a little bit empty. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse footage. Come back with an update from our friends at Manchester VA next. Always love to get an update from our friends at the Manchester VA, the medical center there, their facilities, their programs, and I've really noticed the program growth recently. And joining us here on the Pulse of an Edge, Good Morning, New Hampshire, acting medical center director Julie Voss, and of course the Whole Wealth program manager Laura Shannon. But what is Whole Health? What is Whole Health? There's a program. April is VA Whole Health Month. Whole meaning like uh, a whole pineapple, if you will, the whole health VA's approach. And Julie, thanks for being with us, and Laura. And I'll start with you, Julie, as director. What maybe you can tee this up a little bit, and what is it? It and Julie, before I bring in Laura, there's something in the description here from your team that I think needs to spread. So good for you in terms of this concept, because I've talked in my show and some commentary in the past that when you talk about wellness, typically the team doesn't know you. Like I remember years ago, you go to your physician, your primary care doctor, and they knew about you and your family. They knew who you were. You get alone in the room that ask you how you're doing, how you're feeling, what's going on. They knew the history. So this idea of your health team getting to know the veteran, getting to know the patient, I think is it's what's lacking today. And a lot of young people don't even know who their primary care doctor is. They just go to an urgent care when they get a sore throat. Laura, talk a little bit about how this is implemented and how people can learn about it and how it's going for you in terms of whether it's in the veterans community or at the VA Medical Center. Yeah, I it's interesting because again, I what one of the May 15th is my 12-hour make 12-hour make 12 hours count for veterans count, a group that I know Kevin and you, Julie, have worked with in the past who Easter Seals, but in talking with them yesterday, I mentioned the VA because the challenge for us and you and the whole health program and all the stuff you're doing now, which I think is more out of the box, and you're doing so much more, is getting the word out to the veterans beyond the current VA patients, if you will, or clients. In other words, a veteran who hasn't tried the VA in a couple years, a veteran who's apprehensive to get the help they earned, to go after a lot of the. I even talked to someone yesterday about Julie, help me out here. If you were exposed to toxic materials over your service, the PAC program. I talked to a veteran the other day, and he didn't even know about that. So the challenge is we need to let the veterans know, and I'm not trying to say it's a new marketing line, but if you haven't tried the VA lately, you haven't tried the VA. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Julie, Laura, thank you so much. The whole health or wellness. Thank you very much for the program update in April and beyond. Thank you. Yeah, real quick. Yep. 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 You got it. All right. Sorry, guys. Thank you.